You want to install LED lights on your bass boat trailer? I'm going to show you how. Stick around. Hey folks, Keith here at Chicken Thigh Fishing. Welcome aboard to another edition of the Getting It Done video series. In today's video, we're going to do a tutorial on the installation of blue water LED submersible lights for your trailer. Now, if you're like me, you find yourself very frequently in situations where you're loading or unloading your boat in dimly lit or completely unlit areas. Now, if you're loading or unloading on a major lake with a major ramp and plenty of light, it's not that big a deal. But if you're out in the woods somewhere and you're on a dirt ramp on some remote pond, you're going to want to be lit up a little bit. When you have these LED lights on your trailer, it makes it a far sight easier to load your boat in hours of darkness, especially on those really dark nights when there's no moonlight or starlight. So I'm going to walk you through the process of installing LED lights on your trailer. And we're going to do it on a 2021 Tracker Pro Team 175 TXW. I'm going to walk you through step by step of the installation, and I'm also going to walk you through step by step on wiring them. Now, when it comes to wiring, that can be very intimidating for some folks, especially if you've never touched an electrical wire before. But I'll tell you what, it's not nearly as complicated as you may think, and with some clear instruction, believe me when I tell you, you'll be able to do it. So I'm going to provide that for you today so you can wire your own trailer lights and you'll be good to go when you're trying to load your boat in complete darkness. So the Blue Water LED Ultimate Trailer LED Light Kit from TH Marine comes with 6 light strips, 3 for either side of your trailer. It comes with 2 long light strips that are 40 inches long each, and it comes with 4 20-inch light strips. Each light strip, of course, contains the actual LED lights in the strip. It has a wire so you can connect, and that has a red and a black, positive and negative end. And the back of each light strip has a very strong 3M adhesive on them. So I'm going to walk you through. We're going to start at the beginning, and when we're done, you're going to be able to install your own submersible LED lights on your trailer. Now, naturally, you can put your lights wherever you want, but what I did with mine was on each side of the boat, I put a 40-inch strip on the longer front section, right here, and then I took the 20-inch strips, and I put one 20-inch strip in the middle, and then there's a cross beam, and then on the other side of the cross beam, I put another 20-inch strip. So I have on each side a 20-inch, 20-inch, and a 40-inch. Now you may be asking yourself where the lights are. Well, again, you can mount them wherever you want. You can either mount them underneath your frame, outside your frame, on top of your frame, or inside your frame. I elected to mount mine inside my frame, and you can see the light strip here. Now, that's just a matter of preference. The reason that I mounted them on the inside was because I just kind of figured they'd be more prone to being damaged or struck by things or kicked or stepped on if they were on the outside or the top. And I didn't want them on the bottom because, in my opinion, that would defeat the purpose I was putting them on for, because I didn't want to have an underglow effect. This isn't for looks. For me, it was for lighting up my trailer like a runway so I can more efficiently and better be able to load my boat on my trailer when there is zero light. So here you'll see my 40-inch light up front. And here you can see my middle 20-inch light. And then on the back, here's my second 20-inch light. And I did that the same on each side of the trailer. Now I'm going to share with you a little hack that I did on this job. And that is, when you have these strips, like I said, they have this peel off 3M adhesive, and you can certainly stick this right to your trailer. But I wanted to feel a little bit more comfortable about those lights, and so I wanted to have them stuck to what I felt was a better surface to stick them on, and to also have them a little bit protected. So what I used were these. What this is a tack-in strip for thresholds and transitions for plank flooring that you put in your house. You put this, you know, at a threshold going room from room, and if you need to put a reducer or some type of transition in between the rooms, it has a nub on it that goes into this groove. Now coincidentally, the light strips fit in here perfectly, almost as if they were made for it. And so I figured that would provide a lot more protection in case it got hit by anything in the water. I mean, who knows, you know, rocks, twigs, logs, whatever. And I just thought that would provide some more protection than just sticking them onto the trailer. So what I did was I took these tack strips and I cut them to length to accommodate the length of the light strips I was installing. And then I primed them and I painted them with black automotive enamel paint. And also another feature of them is that they come with holes, which makes it easy for fastening them to your trailer. And so what I did was, when I figured out where exactly I wanted to put each strip, I drilled a pilot hole in the appropriate places on the tack strip, and then use self-drilling stainless steel screws to mount the tack strip to the trailer. And then after I had these in place on the trailer, then I put the lights in the strips and wired them. So anyway, it's a good little hack. Now TH Marine does now sell brackets for their lights similar to this. They I believe they're plastic, and you can get them in black or white. But at the time that I ordered my kit, either they didn't have them or I didn't see them. So that's why I ended up using this. I'd probably like to go with this over the plastic anyway. It's metal. So let's go down underneath and I'll show you how I put mine on. So here you can see my front strip on the port side of my boat, and this is a 40-inch strip. So it's quite long and provides quite a bit of light. So like I said, I drilled holes every so often, pilot holes, in the metal bracket that I used, that tack strip, and I mounted those with flathead self-drilling stainless steel screws so that the screws didn't stick out, and then so that the lights didn't stick out. I made sure that I got them so they were flush against it. I mounted the tack strip in place, and then using the 3M adhesive, I put the light strip inside the tack strip. And again, as you can see, it's almost as if it was made for it, because it fits so perfectly inside it. Next, what I did was I drilled a hole through the frame of the trailer using an appropriate drill bit, where I could then put the wiring into the trailer. Now naturally, when you drill through metal, you're going to have sharp edges, so you'll see that I used grommets here, rubber grommets, so that would protect the wire from the sharp edges of the metal after you drill the hole. So I would strongly advise that. Otherwise, at some point, the sharp edges of your hole that you make are going to chafe and cut the wire, and it's going to short out on you. So I began here in the back, and I mounted the back section as well as that middle section. And once I had them mounted, I was able to fish that first wire through the first hole and bring it out the second hole. And so I had the wire from that first light in the back section, and I had the wire from the middle light, and I connected those red to red and black to black using waterproof butt connectors and shrink wrap. And these two sets of wires from the back lights, of course, could reach each other. But certainly the wire from this light wasn't going to nearly be long enough to head all the way up front for the next light. So I had to connect a connecting wire. So the connection inside here is the reds from each of the two back lights connected to the red of a connecting wire, and then the blacks from each of the two rear lights connected to the black of a connecting wire. And then through this hole, I shoved the wires in there and fished the connecting wire all the way up the frame to the hole that I made for my front light. And so then when I came out the hole for the front light, I was able to connect the connecting wire to the wire from the front LED strip. And then I did the same thing, and I had a connecting wire then going from there up to the front to the tongue of the trailer where we would need to wire it in. So for the benefit of those of you who aren't familiar with making electrical wire connections, I'm going to go over just exactly how you do that. Now, if you've never done this before, it could seem very intimidating, but I'm telling you, if you understand what you're doing and somebody demonstrates it for you like I'm going to show you here, it's super easy, and believe me, you can do it. So as I said, I used waterproof butt connectors for my connections. What those look like is this, and they come in different sizes that are color coded for different gauges of wire. In the middle there is a metal ring, and you can see the gaps are different sizes to fit either bigger or more wires. So if you have to fit bigger or more wires, obviously you're going to use a lower gauge butt connector, and if you only have one small wire, you could use a smaller one. And you can get these in any store or on Amazon. I'll link a kit below for you. And you know, having one of these is invaluable if you're going to do any wiring on your boat or your car or in your home. And it comes with a ton of butt connectors in there, and if you start doing your own wiring on things, believe me, you'll go through them. So for each connection, what you're going to have is a red and black positive and negative wire from one light, and a red and black positive wire from another light. And then you're going to have a red and black positive and negative wire from the connecting wire that is then going to be able to travel to the next light. So now when you use that butt connector, you're always going to put red with red and black with black, positive with positive, negative with negative. And so what we would do with one end of the butt connector is put the two positives from the lights, the two lights, and we would have stripped back the sheathing here, not too far, 1/4 of an inch maybe. Put those together, and you're going to go inside one end of your butt connector so that the bare wiring is inside that metal ring. And then what you'll do is take your standard crimping tool and crimp that metal ring over the wires so those wires are securely held in that ring. Now we're going to take the red wire, the positive wire from the connecting wire, and put that in the other end of the butt connector. And again, we're going to crimp the metal ring around the bare wire. And so now you have your two reds from your lights and your red from your connecting wire, and they are secured in the ring. And so now what you're going to do is apply heat, because this is a waterproof heat shrink butt connector. And when you apply that heat, whether it's with a cigarette lighter or a heat gun, the butt connector material is going to shrink around and create a nice seal that is watertight and protects that connection. Now if you want to go the extra mile and use heat shrink on top of that waterproof butt connector, all you're going to do is, prior to making that butt connector connection, is use a piece of heat shrink tubing. Now, just like butt connectors, heat shrink tubing comes in different sizes and lengths, and you can get that in kits as well. And it's always handy to have a kit of different size pieces of heat shrink tubing handy. So what you would do in that case is, prior to making that butt connector connection, you would take your wires that are going to be going in there, and you would put, let's say these were the 2 red wires on that side. We would put the heat shrink tubing over the wires, like so. Then we would add our butt connector, make the connection, apply heat to the butt connector so that is solid, and then we would slide the heat shrink tubing over the butt connector and then apply heat to that, and that would also shrink and further protect your connection. So if you haven't done wiring connections before, I hope that helps you out. So necessarily for each connection for this application, you're going to have your 2 wires, red and black from one light, red and black from another light, and then the red and black from the connecting wire that will bring it to the next light and then to the front of your trailer. And it's always going to be red to red and black to black. You're not going to want to mix those in a butt connector. Not going to work. So I started at the back, I connected the back and the middle, and then a connecting wire to the front light. And then at the front light, I connected the wire from the front light to a connecting wire that brought it to the tongue of the trailer. And I did the same thing on each side of the boat. So I got 3 lights and connecting wires on the port side, 3 lights and connecting wires on the starboard side, both coming out the tongue end of the front, where we are going to have to wire it to the existing trailer wiring. I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay, so the first thing we're going to need to do to access the wiring at the front of the boat is to remove the pin that secures the swing away portion of your tongue. And that's simply a matter of removing the cotter pin and then wiggling that pin out of there. Now you're able to swing away the tongue of your trailer, exposing the existing trailer wiring. So let's talk a little bit about the existing trailer wiring, because you're going to want to know what the functions of them are in order to effectively wire things, and it's just good to know anyway. Now, a lot of people have boats and trailers and they have no idea about the wiring or what the wiring does, so I'm just going to take a minute here to go over that with you so you have a clearer understanding of what you're doing with the wiring. Now, your wiring is going to start with your 7-way plug, and your 7-way plug has wires coming off it that go through this wire loom here and go through the tongue of your trailer. Now, on most trailers, all 7 of the terminals aren't always in use and are not even equipped to do so. You'll be able to see here that my boat only has 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 of the 7 terminals connected. And that's because inside you can see the metal terminal, and then you can see these empty ones that don't have a terminal in them at all. So you have 6 here in the circle, and the 7th is the center pin. And so you'll see that I have 1, 2, 3, 4 active wires. Now, the reason that I have 4 active wires is because I have a ground, I have a right turn signal and stoplight, I have a left turn signal and stoplight, and I have tail lights and running lights. And so those are the 4 connections and 4 purposes that the existing wiring on my trailer serves. And in all likelihood, you have the same thing. Now, if you had the other 3 terminals on your 7-way plug in service, they would represent a 12-volt auxiliary connection, a connection for brake controlling, and that's if your trailer itself has brakes, that connection would operate those brakes. And then the last connection would be the center post, which would be used for reverse or backup lights. Now, one very important thing you're going to want to know about 7-way connectors is they are not all the same. Why on God's green earth that is not the case is beyond me, but they have different color codes and functions on them. Now generally there are two main types of 7-way plugs that you will find these days, and those are a standard SAE 7-way plug and a standard RV 7-way plug. So let's talk about the differences of those so you know what you have. So here's a look at a standard SAE 7-way plug, and you will see that it has a brown, a red or a black, a purple, a green, a yellow, a blue, and a white wire. And the functions that those serve are listed here, and you can see that the brown wire is the tail lights and the running lights. The red or black would be for a 12-volt auxiliary connection that you could connect to anything. Purple would be reverse or backup lights. Green would be your right turn and stop. Yellow would be your left turn and stop light. Blue would be for brake controls if you had a brake-equipped trailer. And of course, the white would be ground. So that's a standard SAE 7-way plug. Now, what you also may have is a standard RV 7-way plug on your trailer. And if you do, the colors are going to be different functions on that RV standard plug. So take a look here and you'll see that the RV standard plug has a brown, a black, a green, a yellow, a blue, a white, and a red. So a lot of the same colors as the standard SAE, but it has a red wire and it doesn't have a purple wire. And you'll see that the functions of the colors are different. For example, whereas on the SAE plug, brown was the tail lights and the running lights, on the RV, brown is the right turn. On the RV, the black is a 12-volt auxiliary. The green is your tail lights and your running lights. The yellow is reverse or backup lights. The blue, again, is for brakes if your trailer is equipped with brakes. The white is the same, and that's a ground. And then the red, which the SAE doesn't even have a red, is your left turn and stop lights. And so now I'm going to take my 7-way plug and I'm going to note that it has 4 connections in use. And so those wires are going to run through the tongue of the trailer and come out this side through this wire loom. And the wire loom protects the wires inside. But right off the bat, you may be confused as to why, if I told you there are 4 connections on my plug, that I have 6 wires coming out of it. You'll see that I have 6 wires here, 2 browns, 2 whites, a green, and a yellow. So why on earth would there be 6 wires coming out one end when there's only 4 connections on the very end of it? The reason for that is because you need 2 sides of your trailer. So let me show you. Up here in the front section, you will see the 4 active wires that are coming out. You will see brown, green, yellow, and white. So that's the brown is for my tail lights and running lights. The green is for my right turn and stop. The yellow is for my left turn and stop. And the white is for ground. And they have a blue coming out here in case you had a trailer with brakes, but as you can see, that's not in use. And they have an extra ground connection here in case you need to use that. But you will see here that since you need 2 sides of the brown and white to ground out your tail lights and running lights in the back of the trailer and along the sides of the trailer, that the one white is split into 2 and the one brown is split into 2. And so that is the reason that you have 6 wires coming out here. So just in case that confuses you, that's why those are there. So I have the 6 wires coming out of here. Now what you're also going to find in here is the marker light connections, because the browns and the whites have to go not only to the tail lights in the back of the trailer, but they also have to operate your running lights or marker lights, which you'll have usually at least 2 or maybe 3 or more on each side of your trailer. And so anytime the vehicle's lights are on, these marker lights or running lights are on. And so you'll have two connections, your plug connections, that connect the brown and white to each side of the trailer to go down one side and to go down the other side to your tail lights. So now let's talk about how we are going to connect the wiring from the lights that we just installed. So you will see here that these are the two connecting wires, one from the right side of the trailer, the other from the left side of the trailer, that come up from the lights. So the three lights on this side of the trailer are connected to this connecting wire, and the three lights on the other side of the trailer are connected to this connecting wire, and we fish them up through the length of the trailer and out the tongue here, so now we can connect them with the wiring here. But what connections do you make in order to get those lights to work the way you want them to? First, I will tell you that we have to add one more step, and I recommend you do this step, although you don't have to, and that is to have a push button control for your trailer lights. So you can get this push button control from TH Marine. Why would you want to have that? Well, the reason is that if you wire those LED lights directly to the wiring on your trailer, anytime your trailer lights are on, those LED lights are going to be on. Why is that a problem? That's a problem because in many states it's illegal to drive with LED lights. In some states it's illegal to have certain colors like blue, and in some states it's illegal to have underglow. So you can get pulled over for having underglow coming up from the bottom of your car, and in this case the bottom of your trailer. So you're going to want to have that push button control, so when you're driving on the road you can have your regular running lights and tail lights on, but not the LED lights. And then when you get to that dark ramp, or when you're leaving that dark ramp, all you have to do is push this button, and as long as your lights are already on your truck, then those LED lights are going to come on and activate. So I mounted my switch right here, and you'll see what I did was I drilled a hole through the frame of the trailer, and I ran the wiring from the push button controller through that, and then that wire is coming out here, and it has two ends on it, a blue and a brown. So not only are we going to connect those connecting wires from the LED lights to the existing wiring, but we're also going to connect it to that push button control, so we can turn those lights on and off whenever we want to, and they don't automatically stay on anytime our running lights are on. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take one of these marker light connections, and you'll see that on one side of the marker connection there is a brown and a white wire, and on the other side is a white and a black wire. We're going to take the brown and the white wire and we're going to cut those. So now there are the two cut ends of the brown and the white wires that came from one of the marker lights. And we're only going to have to use one to do this. We're not going to have to do it to both sides. And so now we're going to strip the ends off each wire, so we have a little bit of bare wire showing on each end, like so. So we're going to do that for this cut end, and we're going to do that for this cut end. Okay, so now we have the ends of those wires stripped on both the brown and the white. Now I'm going to take our new connecting wires that are coming from our lights, and we're going to go ahead and strip the ends off of those, just like we did the other wires. And the first step we're going to do is we're going to connect the two positive wires, the two red wires from our new light wiring, and we're going to connect that to a new piece of red wire. So you're going to get a new piece of red wire, and we're going to connect the two reds to a new one, and then we're going to take that and connect it to something else. So I'm going to get myself a working end. So now the first thing I'm going to do, because I know that after I put the butt connector on, I'm going to heat shrink it, is I'm going to take a piece of my heat shrink tubing and I'm going to put that over the wire, and I'm going to move it out of the way for the time being while we make the connection with the butt connector. So here's my butt connector, and on one end of it is going to go one end of this new red wire. So we're going to take that one of the ends of the new red wire and put that into the sleeve, the metal sleeve in the middle of our waterproof heat shrink butt connector, and then we're going to take our tool and crimp that. Okay, and we're going to want to make sure that we crimp that properly and it is secure, and so that is secure right there. So the other side of this butt connector is going to accommodate the two red wires from our two new light wires for our new LED lights, and I'm going to twist those together because those are going to go in the other end of this first butt connector. So we're going to stick that into the metal sleeve and then crimp that side like we crimped the first side. Okay, so there's our first connection. The two reds from the connecting wires that go to the LED lights connected to one red of a new piece of wire that we provided. And so now that that butt connector is crimped, we're going to go ahead and apply heat and shrink that and make it waterproof and heat shrunk. So now you can see how the heat shrunk that butt connector and made it waterproof. So we're going to take that heat shrink tube and put that right over this connection, and then we're going to apply heat and shrink that, and that will give that double protection. And so that's what that connection will look like there. Now, if you want, you could even go a step further and wrap that in electrical tape. But for now, we're just going to move on to the next step. So now that we added this new red wire is going to be connected to the wiring from the push button control switch. So what I'm going to do is strip a little bit of this away so it's easier to work with. And so now I have the blue and the brown wire that come out of the wire loom for that push button switch. Now, these wires are interchangeable and both act as a positive wire, so it doesn't matter which one you hook to which. So we're going to take that single red wire, we're going to put a piece of heat shrink tube over it because we're going to use that after the butt connector, just like we did before. And we're going to take a butt connector and do the same thing. We're going to put the red in one end, and we're going to crimp it so it's secure, and then we're going to connect that to one of the wires from the push button switch. So in this case, I'm going to grab the blue one and I'm going to put the bare wire into the sleeve of the butt connector, and we're going to crimp that down. So now I'm going to apply heat to that connection. Then I'm going to take the heat shrink tubing, put that over it for extra protection, and apply heat to that. So now we have the two reds from the LED lights connected to a new piece of red wire, and that's connected to one of the wires coming from the push button switch. So now we're going to connect the black wires from our connecting wire from our LED lights. So I'm going to twist those together. I'm going to add a butt connector. And I'm going to crimp it down. And now, much like we did with the positives, we're going to take a new piece of black connecting wire for those two wires. So now I'm going to take that new black wire I have, and I'm going to put that in the other end of that butt connector. And we're going to connect a new black wire to the two black wires from the lights. And we're going to crimp that down. And so now we have the two blacks from the lights to a new black. And we're going to go ahead and apply heat to that butt connector. Once again, we're going to cover that with heat shrink tubing. And apply heat. You will recall that we cut the tan and the white wires that go to the marker light connection. What we're going to do is take our new single black wire that we put on. We're going to put a heat shrink over it so we can put that over the butt connector once we make the connection. Add a butt connector. Crimp it. And then we're going to connect that black wire to the two white wires that we cut on the marker wires. We'll take those two white wires and put those in the butt connector. And securely crimp that. And apply heat. We will slide our heat shrink over that butt connector, apply heat, and now we have one more connection to make, and that connection is going to be the two brown wires that we cut are going to be connected to the second wire that comes from the push button switch. So we'll take the brown wire, the second wire from the push button switch, secure that in the butt connector, crimp it of course, so I'm going to take those two browns and twist those together. And I don't have enough length here to put heat shrink on, really. So what I'm going to do is just put the butt connector in, like so. Crimp that down. Make sure they're in good. And I'm going to apply heat. And since I didn't put a heat shrink over that butt connector. I'm going to go ahead and put electrical tape on it. Okay folks, that's it. We just made all the connections we need to operate our new LED trailer lights. So we're going to go ahead and take our wiring, put that back in the tongue. We'll close the tongue, making sure we don't pinch any wiring. Replace our swing away pin. And now let's check it out. Okay, so our lights are mounted, our wiring is done, our push button switch is connected, and you can see that I have the lights in the truck on because my marker lights are on. You can see that one down there, this one here, and now we're going to use the push button, and there you have it. The lights are active. So you can't really tell too much in the daylight how bright these are, but they're very bright. This is what they look like at night. And so now you can see the effect that those trailer lights have, and they're submersible, so you can back them right into the water. And when you're in a very low light situation, they can come in real handy when you're loading your boat in hours of darkness. So I hope this video was a help to you if you intend to install submersible LED trailer lights on your bass boat trailer, especially if you happen to have the same boat and trailer that I do and the same wiring. And I hope that if you're not experienced with wiring, and if you might have been a little intimidated by wiring your trailer like we just did here, that you realize now that with the proper tools and materials, you can do it, and it's pretty easy. If I can do it, you can do it. Hey, thanks for being a part of Chicken Thigh Fishing as always. Hope you liked the video. We'll see you next time. Until then, stay fishing, my friends.